To those who would excitement seek and thus deride the working week as 5 dull days there to be scorned, just reconsider Wogan's own. And those whose constitutions weakened by fun and frolics o'er the weekend, why now it's Friday, be reborn, rejoice, be glad, for Wogan's own. Sally, how true that is. I've just recently started travelling to a new job by car, says Sandra Cook. How very grand of you, Sandra. And listening to the radio on the way, imagine my surprise when I accidentally tuned in to Radio 2. I had no idea this sort of anarchy existed outside my own head. You must have been listening to the Steve Wright Show. There's nothing but conformity here. Good morning and good night. On Saturday, we enjoyed a meal with friends at a local hotel. You guys, you know how to live. It's Rocky Outcrop. The menu said, if you like your steak served on a sizzling platter, please ask your wait person. Wait person? The world is in a state of chassis, lads. And Pat, who takes these things to heart, says, did you watch Tess of the D'Urbervilles at all? Laugh? I thought I'd never start. Oliver Hardy, he could ring a wither or two, couldn't he? Not many chuckles in old Tess. Being a devotee of classic drama, sublimely, I decided to watch the final episode of Tess of the D'Urbervilles last night, mainly because you were hoping that Raymond Blanc would turn up, weren't you? No, since I last read it, Thomas Hardy might have had a change of heart and decided to give it a happy ending. No chance, not with old Tommy Hardy. I must admit, I was a little shocked, being the delicate and retiring flower that I am, to see a steamy love scene. Now, you see, that's an anachronism. There was no sex before the young people of the present generation invented it. I'd like to commend the two protagonists, though, for managing to keep going while a string quartet played loudly in the bedroom. Yeah. Just a couple of pertinent questions. Yes, Adele Stone of Addlestone. Christmas Day is but a scant 11 weeks away. Oh, for heaven's sake. Yet on the news it said that MPs returned from their summer break today. Am I missing? Am I in the wrong job? We're all in the wrong job. Yeah, we'll be all right now, though. You know, the turmoil in which the world has been thrown will now be settled because our MPs are back. On a need-to-know basis, yes, rough. Due to the current financial unpleasantness, one of our local estate agents in Drake's Cross, which is the next stop from Deadly's Hollywood, has just closed. Oh, that's sad. To be replaced by the ultimate steady business, a funeral director's. What more could a tog ask for in relation to local services? And we still have a post office. Your cup runneth over. Isn't it interesting that with the banking system in a mess and the credit crunch similarly gripping ever tighter, our beloved MPs are only just returning to work after the summer break? Well, no, there is no excuse. Sorry, sometimes the conversation here reaches an all-time low. We were talking about Australian cheese earlier, and it's not pronounced bigger, it's not pronounced beggar, it's pronounced bigger. Thank you, Robert Leach, writing all the way from sunny Antipodes. And you're poking fun at Aussie cheese classifications, you forgot tasty.
Oh,
tasty.
Very, very tasty.
Hang on, so let me... Tasty, bitey.
Yeah. Vintage.
Vintage, I like vintage. Vintage is nice.
Oh, listen, there is a special guest coming in, as you know. Not either of you.
Oh.
I've got a funny, familiar, forgotten feeling. Under flying unmentionables today we'll be reeling. What's our new pussycat sex bomb Delilah going to do with Tom's thunderball to beguile her? But this daughter of darkness might get quite a fright if told just help yourself and love me tonight. It's not unusual, she'll keep him hanging on until skywards the last of her lingerie has gone. On the green, green grass of home, what a night it'll be, though she'll keep her hat on. Because she's a lady. Crookie.
Did he get them all in there?
I think he probably did, yeah. He did.
Every single...
Just help yourself. Do my...
Oh, look, from the Supreme Head of BBC Radio Broadcasting.
Supreme Head?
Yes, that's what he's called now.
What was Davros?
To Alfie Dirtycoat. I think that's you.
Who?
Thanks for the invite to such an elegant, balty and cheap plonk weekend at the Wheelston Spa, Infectious Diseases Clinic and Massagerama. But to business. I hear you're allowing that old Irish duffer to appear on your show this week. Could you try and sharpen up his act a bit? Perhaps you could try something new by inviting the smelly unwashed out there to contribute. That's the way they look upon them on the 6th floor, you know.
Do they?
Yeah. To contribute the occasional email as his self-penned script ain't got much going for it anymore.
Ooh.
What? That self-penned script is life and death to me, let me tell you. And as for that female bint of his secretary, she's got a regional accent, for goodness sake.
Regional?
She's a bit regional.
Get rid of her for a while. God, regional is the way forward.
We're national.
Yeah. See you next weekend, Deadly, at the Strategic Future Trends Analysis Conference at Sandy Lane, Barbados. God bless the licence fee.
Absolutely. Well, there was nothing better to do yesterday, wasn't that dreadful weather? We had to do something.
As a wise man
Good
once
enough.
said, while resting in bed, never trust a bounder from Dudley. And it ain't cool to be with a flash wheelstone spiv, though a totty from Splotty, quite cuddly. For an out-of-vision yob, he's got far too much gob. This is a bit harsh, isn't it?
It is a little bit on the cruel side, but I can take it.
You can, and you've had to.
Oh,
because-
down the years, yeah, down the years. The red arrows look good. You see the red arrows at the Great North Run.
Were they? That's
Beautiful, clear blue skies. Yeah, beautiful.
Couldn't believe it, people playing golf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were we doing? Very little.
Well, nothing,
inside.
sitting in the rain, trying to keep out of the rain.
Watching Kate Silverton with a big cat.
Yeah, I saw, with a
Did you
big
see
cat.
that?
Yeah.
In the Mara,
She's
she called it. The Mara. He's
Sorry.
He's a martyr to that chest. He's a
No,
martyr.
it's not the thought of Kate without her glasses. That's what put me off.
I've got people clearing the throats either side of me. It's just appalling, isn't it? Why I'm having to deal with this, I don't know. I'm going to have a word with that producer. It's a health hazard.
We're very phlegmatic here on Radio 2.
Exactly.
Dear Alvin, you again.
Oh, could I have
From Ronald Flump, who's CEO of World's Moneybags Association. Could you return the world's biggest earner trophy that you received last year? You've been knocked off your pedestal, Deadly. The committee still warmly congratulate your many efforts and earning vehicles. Sadly, your doughty efforts have been eclipsed by those of J.K. Rowling. It's been revealed her earnings of £5 every second eclipse your own of £4.95 for a similar period.
That's not bad, is it? £5 a second. Gosh. Oh, yes.
Look, if you wish to... Steady.
What?
The very mention of money.
Sorry.
If you wish to challenge for spot of top dog once more, perhaps you consider getting some additional paid engagements. Could you fit in any more?
No, I've got to up everything. I've got to up everything. I've been told that.
Really?
Have you
Yeah.
been told by
What?
whom?
Hmm.
Who told you to up everything then?
People in the know. People in the know. Saying
Yeah.
that.
Maybe if you were to learn Japanese, there'd be a host of other lucrative opportunities.
That is the way ahead, I think.
What do they think, that your star is waning, that you've got to get the money in now?
I've got to go up it. Up,
Really?
up.
Whilst you're still current?
But didn't I read somewhere you were a D-list corporate event speaker?
Yes, he was
Don't
very
do
upset
that.
about that.
A, I don't. And
You
B, D-list? Me?
Well, he's E-list.
Z, if anything, please.
Yeah. Do you know how to download the sat-nav?
What's he saying? What's he talking about?
What's this?
Well, the sat-nav that we're on.
Downloading.
Oh, yeah, that. Yeah. Go on, yeah.
You know how to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah? Well, if you want one, www.charitygoods.com.
Okay,
Seamless.
noted.
You're listening to the Wake Up to Wogan podcast from BBC Radio 2.
Hey, Tom Jones is with us. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning.
Well, Sir Tom, of course.
Well, Sir Terry.
I was hoping you'd say that. It says here in your publicity, and of course that was your very first record.
Yes.
You remember the date?
Yeah, I recorded it on the 11th of November 64, and it came out on the 22nd of January 1965, and it was number one by March the 1st,
That was the beginning of it all.
which was St. David's Day.
Yeah. How did you feel when it got to number one? When you, an unknown figure, of course, outside Wales.
Yeah, it was tremendous. I mean, it's the thing that I was looking for, since up to that point. I mean, I thought if I could get a hit record, that would be it.
Yeah.
But it was so big, it went to number one. You don't expect that right away.
And was it a sort of, after that, it just was, it rolled on and on and on, or were there any sort of periods of hiatus where you thought, oh, I'll never repeat this?
No, it was in, it was a little time in 66. But it was only like a few months. But in those days, there was a fast turnaround. You know what I mean? You had to get a single out and then another single out and another. And the albums were coming fast and furious. So if one single didn't make it, you think, oh my God, when's the next one coming? But it's only a few months in 66.
Yeah.
And then I had the green grass of home, and then we were running again then.
Exactly. And from the very beginning, Were the women crazed for you?
Yes.
Good man. And is it still that same happy situation?
Oh, yeah.
Good, because I have no power over them at all. No. What is it? What's your secret?
Well, you've got to sing a bit, you see.
Oh, I see. Is that it? It's all in the singing, then?
Of course it is.
Yeah. Well, I see here that Tom Jones' influence is all around us today, in the likes of Amy Winehouse and Mark Ronson, Duffy, Moore. Mm-hmm. And you can hear them. They're all doing Tom Jones impersonations. Right, do you mind that?
Not at all. Because I'm sure they influenced by the same people that I was influenced by. Yeah. It's basically soul music, you know.
Yeah, of course. And it says here, a recently anointed Knight of the Realm. So I only got appointed. You got anointed. Did she sprinkle some holy water over you?
No, she just touched me with a sword, you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure she did the same thing to you.
The kiss of steel. Yeah. Narrowly missed me ear. And what did Her Majesty say to you?
That I'd been pleasing people for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, she said, you've given a lot of people pleasure for many years.
Well, she was right there.
And I said, well, I've been enjoying it as well, Your Majesty.
Yeah. She told me to clear off.
Did she?
Yeah. Well, we've fried the leeks, we've roasted the lamb, we've buttered the barrabrith, and I wash it all down with skull attack. The old skull attack. Brains.
Yes.
Yes, that's it. Well, this is from the Mother Superior of the Sisters of Perpetual PMT. And they've had Sister Dipsomania sedated, Sister Pyromania doused, and Sister Nymphomania has been restrained.
Oh, there you go.
It's all because you're here. Now, you've got this new CD.
Yeah.
24 hours?
Yep.
Yeah. So how long and where did you do all that?
Right. Well, it's taken us about 2 years from the beginning up to where we finished it, because we were trying different things. You know, people were sending songs. We were trying songs from people that were already written. You finished songs, and going through all that takes a long time.
Did you not feel that if you're going to take 2 years to do this, you might lose the frisson? You might lose the impact.
Right. Well, we didn't think it was going to take 2 years. Yeah. It just did. But I mean, I was doing shows as well at the same time. You know, we didn't take 2 years from one date to the next and just do that. I was going on the road as well. So anytime I had off, we would get into the studio. But I realised that if I wanted the album to be more personal, I should be there with the songwriters from day one. You know, with the producer and the songwriter to give them an idea of what I want. Rather than just...
Exactly.
You know, so that's what we did. So we got these two fellas from England called Future Cut, and they came to LA with these tracks already laid, you know, and so then a songwriter would come in and say, yes, I think I can do a song to that track, which is a different way to working from what I've always done in my life.
Because you get the words first with you.
Yes, of course, you get the song first, then you do the arrangement. Yeah. Well, these arrangements were done first, and then the songwriters wrote to the arrangements, and they said they liked doing that as well because it gave them inspiration. Yeah. And especially me being there, telling them basically what I wanted the song to be. You know, so everybody was happy.
Dear Mrs. Dumblecat, oh, that'll be you. There's an urgent message that requires your immediate attention. There's been... this is from Big Dave. Big Dave and the offshore consortium, Deds.
Oh, yeah.
There's been a security breach.
Oh, no!
Your offshore trust funds, Wonga, money, and that are all at risk. Oh. Please do not ignore this message. You might end up potless, Squire.
Potless?
Nobody calls anybody Squire anymore, do they?
What, Squire?
Well, no, Jamie Oliver calls everybody man, but Squire... I like Squire. Just email me all the details.
You would.
Well, yeah. Email me all the details of your spondulics and readies, and we'll see you right and make sure you ain't turned over, pal. We're a small group of geezers that used to work in the city and know all about dosh. So act today. This ain't no scam.
Act today.
And it's well kosher. See our unsolicited testimonial below. See, this is... I've never done a better thing in my life. These men saved me from being tucked up good and proper. And now I enjoy my well-deserved retirement aboard me seagoing yacht, Mr. J. Marsh, Uckfield.
Oh, well, there we are. That explains a lot, doesn't it?
Don't delay, Mrs. Dumblecat. Act today.
Pal, Squire, Geezer, you've got them all in there.
Yes, indeed. Look, And tell me this, lads, you wouldn't happen to know the Deadwood stage from the Doris Day movie of the same?
Well, funnily enough, that does come springing
Okay.
to mind from a few weeks ago.
Oh, the deadly bus is going round Wheelston town, with King Deadly driving and he's wearing his royal crown. The bar's open now, no time to delay. Pinot away, Pinot away, Pinot away. Yeah.
Good.
What was
Yeah,
that?
well,
Something nibbling at you? Oh,
Wouldn't be surprised in here.
no, indeed. Look at the state of that carpet.
Nothing's been done to that since it was put in.
Chuffer Dandridge says, "What ho, me old replacement hip gyrators. How wonderful to hear those two smouldering icons of beefcake."
Oh.
I'm allowed to say that. I'm in the theatre. Tom Jones and Alan Dedicoat on the show. How could you tell them apart? They're so similar in lots of ways.
Build and everything.
One speaks with a Welsh burr tempered by years of living in the United States, and the other speaks with a Brummie twang unfettered by years of working in the BBC. Then men of a certain age women of a certain age throw their knickers at Tom, while Deadly's a load of old pants. Has Tom ever sung karaoke on the Johnny Walker Breakfast Show? I think
Come on,
not.
come on, put your money where your mouth is,
Yes,
you know.
exactly.
Come on,
Yes.
come on.
You suffered and made the listener suffer along with you.
I've given my all.
It wasn't much, was it?
No, but it was my all, to be fair. That's all I could come up with at that time in the morning with him.
Guess what? Says Alice Clark. Alligator, listen, guten Morgen. I've had a phone call from a recorded message to say, in the midst of all this gloom and doom, I've won a Caribbean cruise. Oh, how? What were the odds, eh? Probably not even half the people in your street, Alice Clark, will have received that message. A very, very lucky woman. Anyway, I can't sit writing emails to you. I've got packing to do. Alice, I'd ask about a bit before you go, because it mightn't be all that it seems. It might be another offer from Nigeria. You know, give me your bank account number and I will immediately send millions and millions of Nigerian dollars to that account. And what have we got? A certain daily paper is running 50 people who wrecked Britain. Yes, I read it yesterday. I know the fellow who wrote it as well. This is Rocky Group. I have no doubt that I'll be figuring in it, but to my extraordinary surprise and astonishment yesterday, Alan Titchmarsh was listed among 50 people who wrecked Britain. Oh, it'll be the Archbishop of Canterbury and Sir David Attenborough next. I was just wondering if you could enlighten me. James Richard Hand, what is it? How can I help? What your favourite type of biscuit is. Mine is a chocolate digestive, but I'm also partial to a chocolate bourbon or a butter crunch every now and then. If you've any questions for me, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you, James, which is very civil of you, but not at the moment. I know I could have written to the papers or even emailed points of view, but who better to go to than the voice of the nation? Would that be me, the voice of the nation? I don't think so. This is from B, who says, watching Strictly Come Dancing, it's not called Strictly Come Dancing, it's called Strictly. They then introduce one of the world's greatest singers, Andrea Bocelli, who'd only sung a few bars. Yes, I saw this. Two wallopers come out and start prancing about in front of him. And the programme organisers allow the audience to start clapping at the dancers. Yeah, I don't know why any major singing star would appear on Strictly Come Dancing, because you've got all these people leaping about in front of you when you're trying to sing. Anyway, that's I suppose production values, you know, they have their own way, and it is about dancing, Strictly Come Dancing, isn't it? Oh, isn't it? After watching last night's EastEnders, who were told that yes, always at the end of EastEnders, if you've been affected by any of the topics in the show, a 24-hour hotline. Well, I'd just like to say, says I'd just like to say I was terribly affected, particularly by Bradley Branning's unfeasibly hairy ginger forearms. It's an outrage. I'm concerned. You're concerned. The whole world is concerned. Indeed, as Phil, my very shrewd and adept operator, said this morning, if only the media could shut up for a couple of weeks. Just give us a break. Don't keep telling us that we're at our wits' end and that all is going to go up in smoke. If you could just be quiet for a while and try not to sell newspapers and television and radio news, just talk about something else, okay? And then we'll all get over it. And there seems to be scarcely any branch of television sporting commentary, says. You see, people can get offended about anything that now shies away from using the word quality. in an incorrect manner. Oh, what about tasty? Yeah. Now, that was a quality bowl. Now, that shot was pure quality. After these outrages, I find myself wondering just what sort of quality it was. Was it top quality? Perhaps it was poor quality, or the worst quality imaginable. Can somebody tell these numpties that quality in itself is not an expression of excellence? Unless, of course, you meddle.
You're listening to the Wake Up to Wogan podcast from BBC Radio 2.
I must have fallen asleep on the settee last night. Jilly Oxborough. I know the feeling, falling asleep, usually behind the chaise longue, because I had this terrible nightmare where I was locked in a charity shop with Twiggy, wearing a sequined romper suit, and Lauren Laverne, equally scary, in a blue bin liner for a skirt. The present Lady Wogan, I think, was watching this last night. I myself had to tear myself away for a subsequent engagement. I was forced to wear gear that I wouldn't normally be seen dead in, and surrounded by crazed, taunting women. No, this was not a nightmare. This was happening. Yeah, luckily I woke up in time to catch Jules Holland and Coldplay. And incidentally, you don't often see the Coldplay drummer in the same room as Henry VIII, do you? No, probably not, Jimmy. Not if you're lucky. Anyway, that was Twiggy wearing bin liners, and how to really, as we say, behind every successful man, there's a woman with nothing to wear. And this was a little programme on how to dress cheaply yet effectively. Having nothing better to do, says Bill Hollowell, the sackcloth and ashes guru to the gentry, as the rain poured down on Sunday, I retrieved my self-assessment tax form from the bottom of the to-do eventually pile. By removing it from the envelope, I discovered Her Majesty's Customs and Revenue now want paper forms to be submitted by the end of October rather than the previous January deadline. The date has been reserved exclusively for electronically transmitted data. Failure to comply with this demand, thundered the note, will be penalised with a fine. Just one question. When did the revenue Johnnies cease to be our faithful and obedient servants? And we become theirs? Oh, a long time ago, Bill, but it'll all change now. Because we'll all own banks now, and all we have to do is walk in and say, give us 100 million. What? It's my bank. I'll have it now. There is a touch of the exotic about the studio this morning, and indeed, a whiff of the exotic.
A whiff?
Deadly. How is the tortilla?
The chorizo is very nice.
Oh, con mucho gusto. And good to see the salty Kate Silverton in the remake of Daktari last night. As are you. Although I'm bitterly disappointed that Judy the Chimp, Marshall Thompson and Clarence the Cross-Eyed Lion haven't featured yet. Look, that's not the spirit. It's life. It's wildlife. You're supposed to be excited by it. My family have long been fans of the new Fred Astaire, also known as John Sargent. And wonder whether any other listeners have noticed the likeness in visage and voice to Martin Clunes. Do you think Martin could be John's love child? John and Joe Brand, perhaps. Graham Bell of Broughton says, tuning in the wireless this morning made me nearly choke on my tea and toast. I was amazed to hear someone called Aileen Banks was to get 50 million quid from the British government. That's some lottery winner. No, Graham, no. Aileen Banks. I've just heard on the news that Icelandic banks are refusing to let 300,000 British sailors have their money back, says Mike. I am outraged. First, they refuse to let us have their fish, then they come here with their masterminds and saga holidays, and now this. Restart the Cod Wars, say I. Send a couple of gunboats, bring 'em back. Anything of value, which apart from the fish, I suppose, ice. And then it'll just be called land. And serve the Vikings right. And how clever of Mr. Darling to come up with a bank rescue plan by diverting millions of taxpayers' money to them, says David from North London. My bank account badly needs rescuing too. Do you reckon if I ask Mr. Darling nicely, he'll divert some taxpayers' cash to mine as well? Worth a try. Much of the mail this morning is about Alistair Darling's kindly thought of actually giving the banks to us. It'll cost a bit, but just a thought, says Chris, on taxpayers' money. Rather than the government lending the taxpayers' money to banks, why not let the taxpayers keep it? Leave it in the bank and cut out the middleman. Would that were as easy as that. Well, it probably is as easy as that, but you can't expect people to be taking the easy way out. By putting 50 billion into the banking industry, the government has put in the equivalent of nearly £840,000 per person. Since you used to work in a bank, could I separate the florins from the half-crowns? And I can trust you to tell me the truth. If I don't have a mortgage or investments with the bank, does this mean that my account is finally in credit? If the answer is yes, pack your bags, handsome. I've finally saved enough for you and me to run away together. If by any chance you're not able to do this, tell Deadly to be on standby. He's permanently there. He's always waiting in the wings, ready to come off the bench. Lady Breaker and I were travelling through Spain recently on annual hauls. I hope you made the most of it, Sir Kit, because, of course, there won't be many holidays from now on. And when we pulled into a service station to fill up with diesel, I noticed the Spanish pump attendant was taking a great interest in the TOG sticker on the back window of my car. I stopped for no particular reason. What is this? He said, sounding not unlike an Italian. I tried to explain in my inadequate Spanish it was a joke about the TOGs, but it was clear he wasn't getting it. Eventually I pointed to the sticker where it says, "Wake up to Wogan." "Telly Wogan," I said. "Eurovision Canción." Oh, that's Spanish for song. Get away. "Ah," he said. Telly Wogan patted me sympathetically on the arm, which I thought in the circumstances was the nicest thing he could have done. Keith, I couldn't help but notice during last night's episode of The Family, I've missed that. It looks as if it's pretty riveting stuff, that Radio 2 was playing in the background while the whole family was having an argument, and the longer Radio 2 was playing, the more intense the argument got. Can I assume it was your show being aired at the time? I don't know. Was it the early morn or was it the late night? Yesterday's papers tell us that talking down, this is from Alison Ordnung. Alligate, Alison. Mm-hmm. The older people is actually detrimental to their health. But who'd do such a thing? Anyway, you just sit there like a good broadcaster and do that nice little show of yours. And if you need to be excused, pop your hand up and we'll make you comfy. I do hope I've written this loudly enough for you to hear all right. How kind. Tell, I need some advice, and you're the man to give it. Look no further, Donegal. Having spent a lifetime working my proverbials off and being taxed to the hilt for the pleasure of it, and twice when you die, I suddenly find myself as rich as Croesus. I don't like to boast, but I'm now the part owner of at least half a dozen banks. Who isn't? Donegal, for goodness sake. Apart from ordering the Aston Martin and the Patek Philippe. I told them, take it out of my account at the Halifax. Do you think it'll look too vulgar if I had a tattoo of Connie Mara, around the back of me neck? I don't want to appear reckless with this newfound wealth, while ministers are aging before my eyes. You can see them, can't you? Greetings, Flael Riki. Hi, Harold be thy name. The current banking crisis reminds me of a wee trip I had to Dublin a couple of years ago. Having a wee light refreshment in the Temple Bar area. Oh, rough. I got chatting to a retired bank manager who regaled me with the story of a young banker called Michael in Dublin in the 60s. Young Michael duly got measured for his first suit. When trying on the finished article, he noticed that while the suit looked stunning, there were no pockets in the trousers. And when he asked why that was, the tailor replied, "Who ever heard of a banker with his hands in his own pockets?" So it's hats off to British potato growers everywhere and the Potato Council. Splendid, splendid, men.
Delicious.
A round of applause or your hands are full.
Oh, marvellous.
Absolutely marvellous.
8 o'clock in the morning.
And how can you eat that at this hour of the morning? Very easily. A number of togs have noticed the increasing use on television of, if you've been affected by any of the topics on this programme, and you think, what kind of a life do you think I'm leading? Edna Cloud says, I was wondering why this isn't announced at the end of your show. I'm always deeply moved when you read a Janet and John story, so much I have to sit down with a box of tissues. Andrew Motion and Crookie have increased my appreciation of the rhythm and cadence needed in modern poetry, and I have much more understanding of the precarious nature of the acting profession through the experiences of Chuffer Dandridge. Edna Cloud, well spotted. You see, that's, I suppose, if we have a value here, chaps. And don't speak to me with your mouths full. If we have a value here, it's the educative end. Would you say?
Yeah, educative,
Yeah.
We're good at food tasting as well.
And the food tasting. You refer to your underlings, Boggy and Deadly, and Splotty. Is this politically correct in today's climate? We care not a jot, let me tell you, Mike Button. You didn't play rugby, did you, at any point? Anyway, we care not a jot for political correctness here. And in one of the newspapers this week, there's been an opinion piece, a forcefully opinion piece. I know the fellow, about the 50 people who helped to mess up Britain. Among the 50 are Richard Beeching. Beeching. Closed miles of railways, forcing people into cars. And the fellow who invented speed cameras, slowing down all the people who'd been forced into the cars. And the Wally who devised the mini roundabout, finally stopping all the people who'd been forced into the cars. Some people may wonder that there was no mention of your good self. Well, I thought I was lucky to escape. Alan Titchmarsh got swiped. Who else in the world could give Britain its daily diet of smut, filth and innuendo? And indeed, the joy of knowing that people in this very studio are filling their faces with food in these straitened times. Priorities, love. After the news about the discovery of extensive new fields of fungus, Frank, heartening news again, you will no doubt put on the collar and lead onto the Empress of Blandings and go truffle hunting this afternoon. Yes, if Lord Emsworth allows me. Will you be bringing your finds into the studio for a tasting session tomorrow? You'd never know. You'd never know. The stuff that comes into this studio goes beyond belief. Hearing about Roy in Corrie quoting Goethe reminded me of the time my friend Sarah said to me, "What was Goethe's wife's name?" I was blank. Was it Sheila? What was she talking about? We had a mutual friend who had a heavy foreign accent who loved Goethe, but tended to pronounce it Goethe. We'd seen him that day, and according to her, he was going on a bit about Goethe and Sheila. So, who is this bird Sheila? Goethe and Sheila. Look, Kate Armstrong, Glenn Farg. Oh, Piltshire. Please tell Deadly not to pick my numbers this week. There doesn't seem to be a bank where I can safely deposit a cheque.
Yeah. What would you do with all that money?
Weren't they saying that the sale of safes has
Gone up by 25%.
And you wait till you see the rise in the numbers of burglars.
That's an
I
idea.
hadn't thought of that.
No, I hadn't. I had an
Something we
idea.
could do.
What homey old well-fed food fanciers. Chuffer!
Chuffer Dan!
Bridge. Good morning, Chuffer. Did I hear Lynn mention that fabulous double act, Great Yarmouth and Stacey Arms, yesterday?
yeah.
About time. He was a sleight of hand, Johnny, with a face like stewed prunes. She was a female weightlifter with biceps like boiled hams. Wartime audiences will look at them and feel they'd had a balanced meal. The act was one for a discerning audience. She continually lifted him over her head, as he did a succession of weaves, shuffles and card tricks. Her best trick was him building a house of cards on her Marcel wave as she thrusted him into the air to the tune of the Flight of the Bumblebee.
What a picture! What a picture!
What a photograph. But the highlight of the act was that he pulled a straight flush from her décolletage and she punched him in the mush.
I'm not surprised.
Thanks for the offer of the jacket potato yesterday. I could make one last a week in weekly rep. And tell Deadly that eating an eclair on radio is a dying art.
Oh, right, somebody's got to do it then.
He's one of the old school. I once worked with a choreographer called Marmite Rusks.
Well done, Chuffer. Well done.
Chuffer, go placidly among the noise and haste. Alice Clark, at last. Many people have this kind of thing knitted by somebody in the Far East and hung in their loo. You know, go placidly amid the noise and haste. Retain thy good humour and composure, even should thou be daft enough to lock the keys firmly in the boot of the car. Smile amiably at those around you, particularly that nice young mechanic who's been called out to the car park to try and retrieve thy keys. Ignore the murmurings of those who have gathered to watch the spectacle, and particularly the one who is heard to mutter, "Daft old bap." If you can do all this, then, and only then, can you surely call yourself a dog. And what all this wonderful stuff that happens in the world every day, why don't you dish out awards to the best each year? The award could be called the Dozy and Frankly Tiresome Award, or the DAFTA. Not a million miles from the BAFTA. May I suggest the following three from today's news offerings? A Cambodian couple who, in an effort to avoid the divorce courts, cut their house clean in half. One half remains where it was, and the other's been carted off somewhere else. That's going to confuse abuse the legal system. The criminal mastermind, who in an effort to hide his face from CCTV cameras while pinching a car, showed for all the world to see a tattoo showing his name and address. Finally, and we've got to give an award to this because we are, as you know, obsessed with animals and wild animals of all kinds. Finally, the python that exploded after trying to eat a whole alligator. Please, can you do something? Am I the only one worried about what's going on in EastEnders? First of all, this Peggy hasn't got a brain in her head, has she? Eh? Marrying that Archie? Oh, he's a controlled freak, isn't he? And Bianca's sleazy boyfriend Tone. Yes, that's a seamy old plot line, that. And Billy's lost the plot again. Oh, no. Plenty more. Anyhow, I'm scared. Something's going to hit the fan soon. Pat'll go mad when she hears what's going on. And while writing, could you make a helpful suggestion to Bianca? For God's sake, get your bra sorted out, love. When he read Red Robin. Ah, wilting. You are old, Father Wogan, the young man said, and no one these days calls you squire. Yet still you act silly for children in need. Do you think it's time you ought to retire? In my youth, he'd retort as he sipped at his port, I was always as fit as a flea. I'd play lots of sport and things of that sort, and that's how I damaged me knee. You are old, said the youth, and to tell you the truth, you're making a hell of a racket. Stop shouting, Bianca! Just turn round and thank her, and give the poor girl back her jacket. I will. Bianca! That's me that's doing the shouting, you know. I'm just sitting in the snug. And by the way, if you'd like to help, the Podsy Fun Pack, which is what we're advertising, and which is that wonderful ad, and our thanks to the people in EastEnders for giving up their time and going to a great deal of trouble to make that excellent film. Podsy Fun Pack 0845 607 3333. This year we need you more than ever, so do something different for children in need. www.bbc.co.uk/Podsy.
Wake up